It actually arrived right after being prepared to wait months, if not weeks more. The Canon EOS R5C, the probably most exciting purchase I have made in the realm of camera gear right after my new laptop that I got last year. This is going to be a game changer. Now, I have a bunch of videos planned about this, but first and foremost, as you can see, I will have to unbox this and see it for the very first time. As you can see, this is literally the packaging of the shipping. So let's jump together into this box, see what it's all about, and for myself, unbox my first more video-focused camera, cinema camera, than anything that I've ever owned. Before, I always had cameras that are mirrorless or DSLR, kind of like these mixed together cameras. And now this is very, very special. So let's get into this packaging and really have a look. This is so, like, I was almost not going to make this unboxing video because it's so exciting, but I was prepared. I knew that they would be coming, or this would be coming today. And actually this was kind of a surprise because originally I did not have a shipping date anymore. It was just, let's see what happens and when it will go out. We don't know because, of course, you may know, this camera actually was partially recalled by Canon, or at least the pre-order shipping was halted because they had issues with the autofocus. Now, however, I was surprised. I was already kind of planning for other solutions, getting a second Atomos Ninja V so I can film more high quality content, and I want to go over into 4K for YouTube creations and all of the other video stuff. Now this has to go away, and there we have the box. The box. Let's see if there's anything else. Bit of a kind of like a, I don't know, magazine made by the company that has shipped this out, and then that's it. We don't need that anymore. This is what we want to focus on. Now, as I've mentioned, first time ever unboxing a cinema style camera. And of course, you already know the details of this in terms of like 8K 60 frames per second and all of those things. I'm really excited. What I find quite interesting right out of the gate is that the box is actually completely different from the normal EOS R boxing that at least I know from a couple years ago, which was still with like high quality prints and stuff like that. This is just simple cardboard with a bit of the information in terms of like what the camera can do. And then going inside, we will be greeted with paperwork as usual, and registration stuff, and of course the CPS video. So let's put those things off to the side. And first up, right there we have the body. Now let's see. It actually feels kind of lightweight. And I'm gonna just put this off to the side for a second to basically just take out everything that we need from this box. And also something that I've seen others already comment on is that they actually have this all in packaging, which is more friendly to the earth, so to say, because previously these kind of like things here were plastic intrusions or plastic pieces. Now it's all cardboard, which is quite welcoming. And of course we have a charger. We have the battery, and that's nice. I only have LPE6N batteries, and now this is the LPE6NH. And then we have a bit of cable, USB-C, the camera strap, and the booklet. Of course, I'm gonna try and understand the camera without that. Something that is quite interesting about this, even though this is of course not the real camera or not the brain of the camera, the strap feels very different from what I'm used to with the photography straps. Those are way more not as padded. Now, I don't usually use straps at all, so that goes off. And then we have a little bit of the cabling. And this piece right here is quite interesting because, of course, everybody knows this camera has micro HDMI, and being able to just secure the cable in the camera is really important. And a bit of a USB-C cable is always nice to have. Charger, battery, of course, we have all that. We know all that. and we'll see how long those batteries hold up. I've heard they are really quick to go empty. Charger, again, not really my size. I like smaller chargers, and I most of the time don't even use the originals. Now let's jump over to the real deal, the camera, and taking a look inside and just getting a feel for it. And of course we have this, and there we go. Right there, you can see the R5C as I am seeing it for the very first time as well. And I must say, it feels like a normal camera. A little bit more of a chunk at the back here, of course. We all know that. We all expect that with the fan here inside for cooling the processor and the sensor and all of that. I generally really like the feel in terms of like comparing it to the R that I'm shooting on right now with the two in front of me. It doesn't feel that much different, I must say. And of course, it is not going to be that much different. It is pretty much the same camera as the R5 and the R in general. And I'm really looking forward to getting used to this, getting to know what kind of features these cameras have and what the differences are in terms of like, how is this thing going to work, for example? What is this actually providing me with? And of course, also getting to know the buttons, the layout, knowing how timecode works on this machine, if I can use the Tentacle Sync system. And I've been in contact with them about a cable that can be used to connect the Tentacle system to this. And of course, going in here, we have the different things going on with the HDMI out, USB-C, which of course the HDMI is the micro one. Then we have a flash connector, like the old school, kind of like a flash connection. And I'm not really sure how much I would use that because of course we also have the hot shoe and stuff like that. I still wonder what exactly this here is, what kind of a connection that is. And I might have to look that up at some point. And then we have what is to be expected, headphone and mic jack. And of course the mic jack in this case is actually, and this has nothing to do with the placement actually, but mostly with the chunk at the back right here, you can articulate the screen without bumping into any cables. This was a huge problem with specifically the Canon EOS R, because there the mic jack I think is the lower one, which means that you have the monitor right here, and whenever you want to twist this, you actually have to kind of like close the monitor a little bit to be able to do so. Now, I think that it's really interesting that they go with these red markings here on the front, and then we have the multi-function hot shoe right here at the top. That can be really useful with the Tascam unit and stuff like that. I'm really looking forward if someone wants to make a kind of like a Zoom F6 that can go up here with 32-bit float recording inside, and then also providing a backup to the camera with the internal connections or something like that. That would be really interesting. And right here at the back, what I find really cool is that now I have the wheel back, because on the R, I don't have that. And actually going back to my experience with Canon cameras, when I first started out, got the EOS 30D was the first camera that I wanted or bought from Canon. And that had the same wheel that this camera has. And I never got the 3-digit ones like the 300 or 500D because that only had buttons right here. And I have to say, I always loved that. This is so much more helpful to have that wheel right here, have one up here and one up here. It's just a breeze to use the camera. And I'm really glad that I have this back now. And yeah, like multifunction bar gone, really happy about that. This button situation or joystick situation, I'm really looking forward to getting to know that and getting to know how that feels and works over the course of using this camera. Of course, it would have been nice to have the same thing that they have in the EOS R3 with the more modern like touchpad multifunction or multi-joystick button situation. But of course, this can also be a good thing here because it might actually work better. Now, I have to say, it feels really good. Of course, CF Express and the SD card slot, and I will have my Angelbird card in here shortly. And then lastly, when we go all the way down, we have the connection for the battery grip as well as the battery hub itself. Overall, it doesn't really feel that much different than my EOS R, I have to say, at least not in the state that I have it in my hands right now. But now let's put a battery in here and at least get a first impression of how the interface looks and how it sounds when it's turning on. So let's start out with the lens cap right here, taking that one off and having a look inside. And what I find really cool, and something that is not always the case with these cameras nowadays apparently, the sensor is protected with the curtain so that there's no dust going in. And now I can screw on my 35 f1.8. Let's use the battery that the camera came with, and of course you're supposed to charge that through and those kind of things. But now let's just take a look because I want to know what's going on here. And of course, I forgot we also need the CF Express. In my case, I got a 2 terabyte card from Angelbird, and I actually bought that when it was on sale in an online shop. And I got really lucky. Apparently, this is the Mark I, and I got this card for around like 600 euros or something like that. And when I was comparing it to other CF Express cards in the same size, it was about half as much as a normal card. So let's just pop that in there. And now let's see what happens when I turn this thing. Let's start with video mode or photo mode. I would say photo mode. Let's see. It's turned on, but it's not turning on. So apparently that battery needs to be charged completely. There's nothing in there. Well, luckily I have a bunch of LPE6N batteries, so these are not the new H versions. And there we have something happening. It actually already kind of like wiggled the sensor and the lens. And now let's go into photo mode, and there we are. We have to set this up. What's the date today? I think it's the 14th. 4/20, and it is 1, 2, 14, and 54. So of course, I will have here month date. Okay. Register, change the card, or format card with camera. I want to format the card. I think it's in the yellow area. File format. We wanna. Card will be lost. Yes, I have never used that card before. And there we go. And we have what we know as in terms of the interface that I know and love from the Canon EOS R. It's a great interface, it works, and it does everything the way that I want. I, of course, want to shoot RAW photos, and I want to shoot them on both cards. Like, this is really interesting to kind of like have this first time in my hands to kind of like get to see how this behaves with different things that I don't know yet. The Canon EOS R has a single SD card slot, so that's completely new for me. And also just taking a look at all of the different things that I can now do here and how the interface is laid out. How are things going to happen completely differently? And that's going to be a really interesting experience. We'll test this out and see how all of this goes with the different buttons and functions and all of those things. I also will have to kind of like make it so that it's set up in a way that I actually understand. Because of course, right now it's just weird, let's say that. Weird to have this in my hands, which is completely new and different from what I'm used to. What I find interesting is that this button up here, of course, does nothing, the button number 10. And that is because, and I've heard that before, you basically do not have any way of going into filming with this current photography framework or the photography side of this camera. You literally do not have a way of doing that. To do that, we will have to switch over, and this is going to be the first time for myself to actually do this, and of course also see a Canon Cinema OS. And I actually just switched over completely, and the fan is actually kicking on, which is interesting because, of course, that was off in the photography side, which was also interesting. But now we have the fan on, and it's a completely different interface. And now, as you can see, we have all the things in front of the screen, and it's really, really weird to have this in my hands for the first time and see the Cinema OS. I've never used a camera that has the Cinema operating system. Now what we can see here, right now the camera is set up to 4K, essentially at 10-bit. And now what happens if I go into the menu? There we go. So that's going to be really, really interesting to get to know this and see how this all works, what the interface has to offer, what settings I will have to make or change, or how I'm going to work with this. There we have our first recording. So the shutter button is a record button, and that's really interesting. And I'm just gonna dive in here, have a look for myself, see how it all works, and maybe I get this somehow set up to do auto ISO right at this moment. Let's see, what is this doing? Rate? No. I don't know. I just want to quickly set this up in a way that I can maybe do something with it. I have no idea. This is really, really new, completely weird. Cancel media. Okay. Menu. Let's see again. Light, ISO, ISO, gain automatic. So now the camera is setting the gain automatically, which is really good because that's something that I wanted just now, a 180-degree shutter. And what's interesting about this fan is, of course, it does make noise. And when you use the camera or when you move the camera around, it actually also has a slight sound to it because, of course, it might, I don't know, touch the outside. So that's going to be interesting because I am someone who likes to bring my camera. I want to bring it and put it onto my gimbal right there and try out how that works and how it works when you like move with the camera and stuff like that. It does feel weird to hear that and wonder what's going on inside of there, if that's normal or if that is something that is with this model or with this specific version of the camera, with the specific camera that I have in my hands. I'll find out, I guess. But now I have the automatic ISO, so at least something is done automatically for me. Let's go back into the menu and see if I can find some kind of a recording mode. Let's go 50 Hertz, 24 Hertz, 59. So 60p essentially. And that's interesting. Camera shuts down completely, goes into the different mode. That is, of course, something that I am not used to because usually the camera just does everything the way that we wanna and does so without having to do anything. And now we can go main recording format, HDMI RAW, RAW LT, RAW ST, 10-bit XAVC. I wanna stay with XAVC, CF Express, yes. Resolution and bitrate. Why not go for, well, right now I can only go for 4K, intra frame or long GOP. I want to go for this one. Frame rate 2997 is the one that I'm using for everything else right now, so I might as well use it here. And yeah, let's do a little bit of a test right here. Of course, selfie mode, and now I am in 4K, but no automatic focusing. Let's see if I can set that up as well. AF frame continuous AF. Apparently I forgot something else. I probably have to initialize the media. ZF Express, initialize media, CF Express, initialize. And there we go. Initialized process completed. Now the camera is in standby and I could record up to 1000 minutes of this. And there we go. This is the very first time I am speaking into the Canon EOS R5C. This is in 4K with the 35 f1.8 automatic ISO. The weight, not a problem in this setup. With the 15 to 35, it might be a different story, but I'm really excited. This is no crop on 4K. First time I am using a camera that can do that. So I hope you are as excited as I am about this camera, the capabilities that this brings, and of course, getting to know it, because Right now, I'm a completely noob with this interface. I have no idea how everything works. I will have to kind of get to know the processes and all of that, and that will take time. But I will make more videos about the camera, about the usability of it, about the different things that I use with it, like the Tentacle sync system, like the Atomos Ninja V, which I have, and I want to know how it works with this camera. And of course, also how I process all of the files with the M1 Max in my case. Now the camera is getting a little heavy, so let's switch back to this camera over there. Stop the recording right there. And yeah, like I said, I hope you are just as excited as I am about this camera. I'm looking forward to using it on all of the things that I do from now on out and see for myself if this is the workhorse that I have been waiting for. With that said, I hope you have an amazing day. If you pre-ordered a Canon EOS R5C, I hope yours comes in the mail as soon as possible as well, so that you can also get to play around with it and of course use it in whatever projects you are wanting to do with it. And with all of that said, have an amazing day, make it your life, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.